So I'm sitting here in Bob's doghouse, which it was Bob's doghouse back in the 70s when he was sitting out here watching the oil company's equipment to make sure nothing exploded in the brief run of drilling for oil on this piece of land in the Danny Boone National Forest in Kentucky. Um, but we come back on this doghouse, 50 years later, with the plywood floor fell through, but the stove's still intact. And my partner, Billy, come here to get off methamphetamines, and he done it. Sitting in the woods. He fucking set it out. Kept himself warm, and he said, all I gotta do is not die. And back in the day, that's how life was. All we had to do was not die. And as we've added on all these manufactured needs, all these bells and whistles, you know, to either compete with each other with fancier stuff or think that you're more comfortable. You cannot get more comfortable than warm when it's 20 degrees outside and we're inside plywood and tin, the beautiful, warm, glow stove. We've got the cleanest water in the world. We've got all the benefits of all the fossil fuels just from a half a truckload of coal that I guess was dumped out here 50 years ago that's still half buried in this draw that we're literally fucking mining with a little... We're just scratching it back out of the ground and burning it directly ourselves. If anybody's breathing some coal ash here, it's not from a goddamn power plant with a mountain of coal ash as tall as a city that blows all on the same neighborhood until they can all write, you know, fuck you or Trump 2020 on the backs of their cars in the coal ash dust. We're just breathing the coal ash ourselves in this one little goddamn shack, 8 by 16. It's not that long. Well, it's just one sheet of plywood and another half.
Wait.
That's your can. Your coffee can is had too much.
I thought that was a gas tank.
No, sir. Gotta listen for noises. That's what old Bob did when he was living here. He set up here in these beautiful woods that you will see more of soon.
That's exactly what he listened for.
And he just listened for that sound. And then he said, uh-oh, she's gonna blow. It had gotten beat up. That can had gotten beat up, and now it blew right through it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I drank that.
Right.
His coffee can got too hot. We've got batteries. We've got a solar panel to charge them, but we also can charge them in the car or charge them with a generator if the sun isn't enough. And you don't need a lot of light if you got a 4-watt LED for our light, and we keep our phones going. We've got Milwaukee tools with batteries. We are seeking sponsorships. Volkswagen. We got here in a 2002 Volkswagen Golf. Volkswagen, please holler back. Milwaukee, we love your shit. Virginia peanuts. The highest quality peanuts. Oh, wait. These are the shit. Please, if you ever need any peanuts, we really recommend Belmont. And Carhartt's dry fit boots.
No,
It's I'll get the name right, Carhartt, later.
It's not Carhartt.
It's Thinsulate.
Yes.
The boots are Thinsulate. Cabela's. It's Cabela's. Oh my God. Duck suit like thing. So Billy's like, I can just lay down on the ground with my coat and my suit on, and I don't get wet or cold at all.
Nope.
So
It's waiters.
right, back to the simple things. That's what we're talking about here. All these bells and whistles that make people concentrate all the coal into one big power plant and then dump all the ash on one poor neighborhood. In the old days, especially here in the hollers of eastern Kentucky, people had to handle their own shit and their own coal and their own family, no matter how crazy they got. They had to make their own stories. They had to make their own food, grow their own greasy beans, raise their own hog, and get their water from these beautiful sacred springs that dot our hills and hollers that start our watersheds. And if the bank man's coming, they said, "Ma'am, I'll put some holes in him. It's the bank man."
I'm gonna make holes in him. It's the man for the bank.
Because there wasn't no point in letting go control of your own life. But today,
Nobody cares.
thanks to bureaucracy,
Nobody even knows if that's.
nobody even knows what it would be like to take care of their own life.
No.
Nobody has a clue because they're used to having everything provided to them by a centralized state. And that's a very old story. That's a 10,000-year-old story of agriculture. I really recommend work from the Post-Carbon Institute. It's resilience.org, and there's thousands of articles that they've been curating for several years, which really will tell you the story of the carbon cycle that we're in, and its roots in the start of agriculture and our way forward. Because if you take the centralized factory farm food system story, complete, with the antibiotic resistant staff from trying to raise all those hogs and chickens in insane confinement and giving antibiotics to everybody who walks into a doctor's office because you need some treatment. I come in here to get well. How am I supposed to get well if you don't give me something? Give me something. And they give everybody antibiotics, which they take half of because it wasn't bacterial and they never needed antibiotics in the first place. So antibiotic resistance, big lakes of shit on the backside of all these factory farms that they're trying to like dry out and spread it on the, hog food, also known as corn and soy, also known as granola bars with chocolate sprinkles on them that they're trying to convince everybody is food. You're going to end up in full Mad Max Soylent Green, big hog methane digesters eating their shit and powering the city because they've done burned out all the easy sources of fossil fuels. The centralized infrastructure will break down, and then you'll be, it already did, in a shittier version of what they promised in the 50s. More awesome in some ways because people have been taking back their identity freedoms, but more shitty in terms of what your resources will buy you. So then you're struggling, working between two jobs, threatened with child protective services because you have to leave your kids on the Zoom school while you work your job, and your neighbor doesn't think it's appropriate because she's bored and angry and can't figure out what to do with herself. And there's a hotline for that. It's getting less fun in the corporate fascist super state fun world of grid tied life. And how many of you have ever read a science fiction book? Who are the heroes? They're scavengers on the edge. They don't need the state. They don't look to the state for protection. They don't look to the state to move their shit away from their house after they produce it in a tube. They don't look for the state to feed their shit into their mouth from a tube. They don't look to the state to protect them from anything. And in exchange, they're not microchipped and tracked at all times because has anybody looked at how China does security state? Don't think that the technology will be invented and then not implemented basically everywhere, because how many times have human governments encountered a technology that they didn't fucking use? The geoengineering will fuck up a lot of places worse. The climate change will fuck up a lot of places worse. The West will burn. The southeast will flood. The polar vortex will split in half, and you'll get 20 below in March at weird times, killing everything, or a May 20th freeze like we did last year, killing off nut bearing all the flowers from the hickory trees, and
That killed everything.
It'll. I guess Andrew was saying it's gonna fuck up the animals next year because they're on a biennial cycle, or so. Part of my mission is to get better at living, taking care of my own material flows and being honest about my own material flows. What comes in and what goes out and how I get it. Because I think by simplifying what we need, to remember that the real heart of what we need is to not freeze to death, to not, die of heat waves, to have nourishing morsels to put in our bodies, water. And the rest of it, you really don't need. Some of it's fun. And communication and community over the airwaves is interesting, and communication and community in real life is a worthy goal for everyone, and really a human need. But human needs are simpler than we've been led to believe. And so part of Deschooling Society is to look at our most basic needs and find ways to provide them without hyper concentration. Because when you concentrate the fossil fuel sources, you concentrate the pollution, and you poison the people you care about the least. And that's what environmental justice, that's what climate justice, that's what they're talking about. Because, I lived in Houston for 6 years, and the neighborhoods that are getting poisoned are mostly not the rich ones.
Look at what they're doing with all that coal dust.
Yeah, what can they do with it? They put it on barges, and then they park it somewhere, and it blows on somebody. But if you burn the coal that you dug out of that hill yourself, and you breathe the coal dust, at least it's up to you. And you know what trade-off you're making between your warmth and your lungs. And then you can open the door later and you can flush it out because it's manageable. Part of Deschooling Society is taking society back to a manageable scale. How many of you kids have school provided by Zoom from an institution that serves, 400 kids? How well are they doing at funneling your creative desire to learn about something and your creative desire to express yourself into real knowledge about the world and how it works and how you can become the fullest expression of yourself on this earth in the life that you have? I'm going to guess that Zoom School's not really doing that for you, because I've been watching my kids on Zoom School. They're in 4th and 5th grade right now, and that's not what it's like. The state is not doing a good job at providing our needs. The fossil fuel companies are not doing a good job at providing for our needs as a collective, because they depend on poisoning whole communities in exchange for everyone having access to centralized power. And it's just not that great. Decentralization, I swear it's more enjoyable. I swear it's more fun. And that's the mission of this show, is to show how much fun decentralization can be, and to help us take back our control over our health, our education, and whatever we call, whatever makes us well, whatever makes us whole. Um, when we do it ourselves, it suits us better.